it's been a long time since I've done a video. Well, not that long. This is the second one of the Legends videos, and I've got in the car this morning and travelled a very long way to fish with, without a doubt, possibly definitely the best river angler in the country. Not only the best river angler, this angler has had over 400 20s. He's had 20-pound pike from over 50 locations. I think he's had 15 30-pound pike. 9 of those pike are from rivers, and his name is Nick Peat. Now, I've been a big fan of this bloke for a very, very long time. Since the 90s, some of the fish he's caught are absolutely huge. And we're fishing in Fenland today. We're fishing a river on one of his favourite locations, and apparently we're in with the shout of a considerably big fish. We're not fishing a runs water, so we'll see how we get on. Right, hopefully the sound quality is going to be a lot better than my prior video. I bet the one with Neville was Neville, I have to apologise at this point. I actually slipped up when I said Neville had only had, 450 20s. I spoke to him not long after I put the video out, and I was about 100 out. He's on 550 20s, probably pushing 600 by the time this goes out. I have a lure rod with me today, so hopefully I'm going to try and catch a fish. I've got 1,000,001 questions to ask Nick. I mean, how he's been consistently this good over the years, well, we'll find out. I remember going to a meeting many years ago, and he listened to everything this bloke says, because it's wise words. Conditions are looking pretty good today, and right, let's get on with that video. Right, we are here with Nick Peat on the bank. Say hello, Nick.
Hello, Warwick.
What do you reckon we're going to catch today?
Absolutely bugger all. Conditions are shit. The water temperature is 4 degrees centigrade.
Well, never say never, never say never.
I think you've got more chance of getting your leg over a page 3 girl today.
Well, chances of that happening are pretty slim at best. Right, my first question for you. When did you start pike fishing?
I started pike fishing back in the mid-70s.
Mid-70s?
I was 14 at the time. I was always in trouble when I was a kid, and when I started fishing, that's what kept me out of trouble. Caught my first ever pike was a jack I caught on floatfish maggot out of the Derbyshire Derwent, which I took home and ate. To me, that was huge at the time. It tasted horrible, tasted like Castrol GTX, and I've never killed another pike since.
Yeah, that was a bit like me when one of my first pike I caught out of Weald Reservoir. I was over the moon with it. By the time I landed it, the murderous trout anglers descended upon it and culled it to death.
It wasn't until I left school till I got deeply into it.
Yeah.
I was at Liverpool University at the time. On Christmas holidays, I started fishing the Big S Reservoir just south of Derby.
Yeah.
I started catching 20s there. That was really the Abberton of the Midlands. All the local specimen groups were on it. The Saw Valley lads, Peat Haywood, Brian Cully. Brian Ingram was just starting out at the time.
How old is Brian Ingram's?
I think he's about 2 years younger than me.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was always a race on a Saturday morning to get to the point first. Brian used to drive his mum's old VW Beetle. I used to cycle there with a bucket of live baits, Trent Chubb over each handlebar. I had to cycle 12 miles from Spondon to get there. But I always used to beat Brian.
Fair play, that's what you need to do. I suppose he's into tractors, I believe, these days.
Oh, right.
You started fishing on the Big S. What was the first serious pike you caught? Probably not great.
My first serious pike, I had 3 20s very, very quickly from the Big S.
Yeah.
I had the point to myself because I was fishing midweek. It was a Christmas holidays. Everyone else was at work. Then at the weekends, everybody else started turning up. All the local specimen groups.
Well, I've seen lots of pictures in the old angling magazines of that point swim. It did used to get a little bit busy.
That's when I started to get really, really keen about pike fishing. I didn't really want to do anything else.
Yeah, well, you've done a lot of carp fishing in that as well, haven't you?
I was a mad keen carp angler back in those days before carp anglers went, before carp went silly. There weren't many carp around, there weren't many carp anglers.
Yeah.
You could have a lake to yourself for the night.
I must admit, I used to love my carp fishing years and years ago. And
during the final couple of years before I packed in UK carp fishing, I'd set off on a Friday night, not knowing which water I'd be able to get a swim on. It was crazy, so I had to take a selection of baits.
Can you have basil out of Yateley?
Yes, I did. That was my first UK 40 back in 1988.
Oh, God.
You could count the number of known 40s in the country on one hand then.
Oh, I can remember that. I can remember a 40-pound fish. I remember that fish when it used to get caught at 40 pounds. It used to be on the front page of the Angling Times. But,
in fact, it hadn't been caught for a couple of years and everyone was wondering if it was still alive, and I was wondering whether I was chasing ghosts at the time.
Yeah. Were you in the old syndicate? I've heard all sorts of
No,
stories.
anybody could get a ticket back then. You could fish the whole Yateley complex for 25 quid a year. No silly rules, you could stay as long as you like.
Yeah, no.
So many carp waters these days are closed shops with closed waiting lists. A lot of the waters I used to fish you can't get into now unless you know the owner.
I think you pay for your fish these days, and I think you've gone down the right route going to the Pike.
So these days I spend the summer months travelling overseas after much bigger stuff, far more exciting than sitting in a bivvy all weekend.
What would you say your best fish that you've ever caught is? I mean, whether it's like, I personally would say it's probably a 37-pound pike.
In the UK you're probably right there, but worldwide that's a very, very difficult one because I've had so many cracking fish. 2,500 pound great white shark, 880 pound tiger shark, 203 pound Nile perch, 217 pound alligator gar.
That's mental, that is.
Goliath tiger fish from the Congo. I'm hoping to go back there this year.
What's the best Goliath tiger you've had?
Biggest so far was a 39.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine, David, and he goes out there all the time fishing for that.
I was talking to him on the phone the other.
He's a good bloke, is our David.
Yeah,
I took him up.
I'm maybe going with him this year.
He's a serious angler, David. He's a very good angler. He just, wherever he goes, he turns his hand to it. He goes to, he took his,
I met him in Thailand a few years ago.
He took his missus. I see a photograph of him on Christmas Day on Loch Awe. He's taken his missus to Loch Awe and he's fishing on Christmas Day. Yeah, I like David. So what would you say the best pike fishing you've ever had was, considering you've had quite a lot of good pike fishing?
I'd say the royalty fishery in the early 90s.
Yeah, I will make you right there. I would say officially I met you at an Essex PAC do.
So many pike anglers in one room.
It was really good. That's when you told me about the dead baits. But I'll never forget, in the 90s, I was going, somebody caught a really, really big 30-pounder. I think his name was Nick. And I was fishing the same, I descended upon this river. I remember driving 2.5 hours down there, making sure I was the first person at the gate by the inner car park, and walking down to a said swim, and I would have been the first person to fish it. As I was walking down to this swim, I noticed someone, and I don't know if this was you, Nick, but I saw somebody fishing down there, and I thought there's absolutely no way anybody could be down there. 10 years later, I'm at a PAC meeting, listening to one of Nick's talk, and he's telling me how he used to wade through a small river to get to a stretch of the Avon.
When the fields were under, the pike would all pack into that backwater.
Yeah, there was a bit of land there.
The hardest bit was catching the live baits. The pike fishing was very easy. I used to sit on the bridge at Ringwood and trot down a float.
Yeah, see, I didn't struggle with the live baits down there, believe it or not.
The local club had coppers trying to catch me, and so it was quite fun trying. It was a real challenge at the time. Everyone was against me.
Yeah.
I very nearly didn't fish that day. I had the 37.
Yeah, that was a hell of a fish. Was that the same fish that Phil Wakeford had?
Yeah.
Yeah? A few people I know had that fish, and I wasn't one of them.
I'd already caught it at 34. I wasn't planning to fish the place again. I thought I'd had everything worth catching. I was off fishing other waters. Then I saw in the Angling Times just before Christmas, Simon Webber had it at 38.5. Yeah. Although he didn't name the water, I recognised the background.
I recognised the background.
And I recognised the fish. It was the same fish as the 34 I'd had further upriver. And I thought, shit, that's going to go 40 at the back end, so I just had to go back. I don't normally go for repeat captures, but a river 40.
Well,
Stuff of dreams.
I'm still after river 30. Whether that'll ever happen. Right, it's rather cold up here today. Hopefully Nick is going to catch a very large pike in the near future. Let's have a look at the tackle there. It's a pretty straightforward setup. Now, you just basically deadbait all the time now, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. And,
for some strange reason, I don't know what it is, sea deads seem to sort out the bigger fish. The fresher the better. I get very few jacks these days.
Well, I mean, I make you right there. We were saying earlier, I don't rate.
I just love a herring or a mackerel straight from the boat that's never seen a freezer.
Yeah.
I've just got so much confidence in it. Okay, some deads you have to freeze, like lampreys, to keep all the blood in.
They're also pretty hard to catch.
And sardines when they go soft.
Well, sardines I've never been, but herring, if you can get your hands on. So do you ever use frozen bait?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I go back home, I take a batch of frozen herrings with me and use them, stock up the freezer with about 300 or 400 and use them on all rivers all over, especially in the south of England. But when I go back with a batch, I always keep back 2 or 3 days supply and don't freeze them and use them before they've been frozen.
How many days would you
I've just got a feeling they do better.
Well, they do. I mean, it's interesting when you talk about frozen baits. Now, I do a lot of sea fishing. Now, sea fishermen basically won't go fishing unless they got fresh bait. You are somebody fishing for
Definitely, I've done a lot of shark fishing from the beach, and you really need to get fresh bait.
You don't. If you don't catch, if you're going eeling or something, if you don't catch bait, you don't go fishing. And Nick has proved a point with the amount of fish he's caught. That this obviously makes a huge difference. And how many anglers?
You look at a mackerel straight from the boat.
Yeah.
It's got a green back, nice shiny flanks with a purplish tinge to them. You freeze that mackerel and then thaw it, they turn blue.
Yeah.
They'll still catch fish, but they just don't seem to do as well as one straight from the boat that's never seen a freezer.
Well, I know that from the sea fishing. Like, you use frozen baits. Well, we're on a water with some big fish. Now we need to see one of those drop-offs fall off. It's quite chilly.
But having said that, I was at Chew once. I just caught a low 20 on one of my super fresh mackerel.
Yeah.
And this guy turned up, he didn't look very experienced, with a little piece of frozen mackerel he'd bought from the freezer at the lodge. And after seeing me catch that fish, he set up probably about 30 yards down the bank, as close as he dared. And anyway, I just sat back watching me bobbins, and about half an hour later I heard a shout, "Can you give us a hand, mate?" And he got his rod bent double. I thought he was snagged in some weeds, so I wandered there over, and there was this bloody great big pike, and he'd got this little T-strainer landing net. So I waded out and chinned it for him, and he was a 32 and a half.
Yeah, that place is a rental place.
I don't think the sun's going to break through today, and that's the problem.
Do you think the sun would help the fishing then?
On these really freezing cold days I fished, I mean, my last Royalty 30 came on a freezing cold day. All the lakes were frozen, frost everywhere. Didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. Days like that, I've often done well early afternoon when the sun's at its highest and the water's at its warmest.
That's interesting. The other day I was fishing and it was freezing. The water temperature was 3C. Yeah, the water temperature was 3C. I sat there absolutely freezing. At 11 o'clock, just as the sun come out, I was actually on the phone to my friend Jim, and I had a take. Now, that was the first fish of the year, and it weighed 21 pounds. Just as I slipped that back, the other rod goes, and I had another fish. It was like a decent fish. I'll show you a clip of that. But that was really interesting. It was just how it warmed up for like half an hour, and then you felt it. What would your views be on like feeding spells?
Well, on this particular drain, it just doesn't seem to produce the goods at night. They've all come in the daytime, any time really. Most of the fish between 10 and 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't.
Whereas other drains fish well at night.
I know some waters fish at like 1 o'clock. I think most waters I fish sort of mornings. First light is always a golden period.
That's the hot time on just nearly every water I fish, especially the rivers.
It goes with sea fishing as well. I think mornings fish better, but you cannot if you.
When I used to fish the Wessex rivers, I used to do short dawn raids before work.
What would be your favourite river that you've ever fished?
Difficult one, that. For numbers of 25 plus fish, I would say the Wye.
Yeah, the Wye is a beautiful bit of river.
Not as good as it used to be, but there's still big fish in there.
Yeah.
In the late 90s, it was incredible. I was getting 25 pluses every session.
What's the most 20s you've had in a season?
17.
That's pretty good going.
But these days, I don't do so much as I used to because the winter gets broken up by overseas trips.
Yeah, I think you made a very valid point when we spoke the other day. You're not interested in catching repeats. I know a lot of anglers who like bump up there, they'll sit on the same bit of river and they'll catch the same 23 or 4 times in a year and they've had 4 fish. As far as I'm concerned, you've caught the biggest fish on a water, it is time to move on.
If you fish a water a lot, repeats are unavoidable.
Yeah.
I don't go for repeats, but yeah, I do get them.
It's quite frustrating when you're after it.
The only way you can avoid it is not fishing the water again after your first 20.
Yeah, well, it's like if you're after a big fish and you can catch, it might be the hardest fish in the lake, but it's not the one you want. You'll catch it 5 times before you catch a big one. That's the way it works for me. But the Wye is a beautiful river. I think the Avon's a beautiful river. What about the Thurn and the Broads? How do you rate them?
I just love the place. There's just some magic about the Thurn.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, it was absolutely brilliant. There was a massive head of 20s in there. I caught 20s nearly every session. These days, it's a lot harder. There's very few big fish left. The last Primnesium killed a lot of big pike. Also, otters and seals have had
37.
a lot.
I don't know if it was. I know the Norfolk Broads has done a big 30.
There are still some very big fish in there, but there's a hell of a lot of water for them to get lost. It's all down to location.
Yeah, no, I'll let you right there.
I don't fish it so much these days. I just do the odd overnighter when I go up there to stock the freezer with herrings. It's 2 years since I last had a Thurn 20.
Yeah. What's the best fish you've had off the Broads?
£30 9.
That's a fine fish. That is a fine fish.
I had that one twice.
Yeah.
It was a 30.
Oh, well, that's an honest angling. 6 or 7 29. Some anglers never catch 29s. Oh, look, this does look good. I reckon we might catch a 30 today.
But that's the place to retire onto. You've really got to put in the time.
Yeah, I think the Wye's a bit.
John Goble knew the place better than anyone. After he retired, he was down there every day. His knowledge of the place was amazing. Yeah,
possibly,
until his health problems set in.
Yeah, that big fish he had is the fish of my. What's the word? In my lifetime, that fish he had has got to be the one.
Yeah, because I was going up there most weekends at the time when the Wye was unfishable. And he was just acting very strangely one weekend, and he said to me, when I asked him how it was going, he says, I can't say anything, but get hang next week's angling time. So I did. And when I saw it on the front page, I immediately recognised it by the markings on the root of the tail as a fish I'd had at 29.10 5 years earlier. I rang him and he said, I was dying to tell you, but Angling Times told me I couldn't say a word to anyone.
What pike angler do you admire the most?
I don't really admire anyone, to be honest. I just like to do my own things. The types I admire the most are the pioneering types who fish new waters for unknown fish.
There must be one out of all of these anglers that you must be thinking, maybe somebody a lot older, a Dennis Pye or a Derek Ames.
No, I never met them, no. John Goble I knew very well. His knowledge of the Thurn system was amazing.
Yeah, well, I'd put him up there, and he's had the fish of the decade.
In fact, he photographed a lot of my biggest broadland pike.
Yeah, well, I think he's a good person to Well, the trouble is with rivers, you've got two schools of thought. You can be super mobile, but I think...
Well, there's a big difference between the
fish
fast-flowing
move.
rivers and the slow rivers.
Yeah?
I mean, the fast-flowing rivers, you fish the pike, you're looking slacks near the bank. If there's a fish there, you usually catch it straight away, no messing.
Yeah, you can cover through, you can go through
Places
your
like this, the fish could be anywhere, sit tight and just wait for them to come to you. I've had my best results.
What are your views on technology these days? Have you ever tried that on these rivers?
I mean, I've been looking at splashing out on a decent fish finder with side scan for the Congo, because we wasted so much time fishing dead areas trying to find the Goliaths.
Yeah.
And that had narrowed down the search. So on my next trip, I'm hoping to get one. But whatever you buy, there's going to be something better 6 months later.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. He's made a very valid point about finders, because I've actually had a side scan unit quite a long time, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. But a lot of anglers who've spent a hell of a lot of money have realised that Hummingbird have just brought out a new live scan.
I was looking at the Apex, and now they've brought out the Explore.
Explore is, I'm actually up on this. The
That
Explore,
looks the highest resolution screen.
well, the Apex is still the flagship model, and it is the best one. The problem is most pike anglers, myself including, have got a Helix and have had them for, luckily I've had mine for quite a long time, but they brought out something called Mega Live 2, which is, whether we like it or not, Mega Live's here to stay, and it is amazing. But Mega Live 2 doesn't work on a Helix, and a lot of people spent thousands of pounds on Christmas on a Helix.
Yeah.
Then they bring it out, nobody can use it. But technology is not something I'm going to go
I think
into.
that would make a massive difference on the Congo if you could
Oh,
find
yeah.
the fish before you start
Well,
fishing.
it changes the way, it'll change the way we all fish, live itself. If I was to put, I watch it on telly, and I'm not sure if it's a good thing because you end up looking at the screen all the time, but you're actually looking at fish. If you're using live baits from a boat, you can see them coming up. I mean, it's amazing. Side scan's brilliant. I don't know how I'd fish without these things these days, but at the end of the day, they're not really a substitute for watercraft, I don't think. There's a lot of skill to learning how to use a fish finder, and I don't claim to have that, but it's where younger anglers actually seem to excel. Right, I'm going to have another cup of coffee, because this is proper chilly in this part of the world. What was your favourite band?
The Mighty Slade.
Slade, yes.
Used to follow them everywhere when I was a kid.
Noddy holder.
Love the music, yeah. Nod and Jim were great songwriters.
Did you have any flares?
No, but I've still got a couple of Slade t-shirts at home somewhere.
Look at that fine magazine there, Catch Cult. You've written a few articles for Catch Cult, haven't you?
I did one on Nile Perch, my trip to Murchison Falls.
I've got some friends of mine who fished out at Murchison Falls. It's a place I'd love to fish. It's pretty expensive to fish out there now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Somebody told me there's something to do with the government there.
But they want to keep it that way. They want to keep it exclusive so it doesn't get overfished.
Yeah, I can see that. It's the biggest Nile perch you've ever had.
£203.
Yeah.
I was on my first trip.
One thing I've noticed that you do, do you ever fish with floats?
When in my live baiting days, yes, all the time. But most of the time with static dead baits, no, I don't. It's just a running lead up with the bait on the bottom.
It's interesting. That's what I always fish with floats. I'm just a bit sad. I just like looking at a float.
If I'm fishing over a ledge with sharp rocks that could cut through it, then yes, I would use a float ledger rig just to keep the line off the bottom.
I just like the ledger rig, but say you've got four rods.
You can't sit there watching a float all day. After a bit, your eyes start to play tricks on you.
Well, I still use an indicator. I have an indicator, and I won't lie, I don't see the float on the rivers more so. But when I'm fishing the still waters, it's usually the alarm that alerts me. But I'm just a bit of a float fan, and I fish fixed. Do you fish running leads or fixed leads?
Running.
Running, always running. What size leads do you use?
All depends on the water, really. Anything up to 6 ounces, but usually as little as I can get away with.
Yeah, well, there is a school of thought that thinks heavy leads are the way to go. There's no movement if a fish is going to take it.
But I don't want the line stretched tightly through the water like some people do, because you get fish bumping into it, you get false drop-offs, you could spook the fish. I like a slight bit of slack in it, so it's lying flat on the bottom.
No, I get what you're saying. I mean, the fact I like floats doesn't really. If I use an up trace and it's sat up, I'm sure it could cost me fish on somewhere like Chew. Yeah, I just noticed you never use a chair, and you say that could be down to the skyline. I think you could be 100% right.
Well, I like to. Yeah, it's a lot more sitting on a chair. I'm lying on a hooking mat like this. It's a lot more comfortable than sitting on a chair, and it's a lot lighter to carry around if you're walking long distances.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd use a bed chair for bivvy sessions, but no, I'd never carry a chair like you're sitting on. In fact, I don't even own one.
It's an interesting question. This I get slated all the time for carrying a chair by, Jim and that. And he turned around to me and he goes, "You can't fish properly with a chair." I said, "If you can't actually walk to a swim with a chair, you should probably go down the gym. Because this chair doesn't weigh that much." And, I like my creature comforts. Yeah, I'm not trying to lecture on anyone because my style of fishing may not be the best. Right, Nick, what are your views on lure fishing?
Well, in the UK, I do very little. 6 chucks without a take and I get bored.
Yeah.
Overseas, for bigger fish, I do a hell of a lot. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I think lure fishing is it's a tricky one. I think it could actually be a good method, but we need to work at it a little bit more.
Southampton region have banned me from their trophy for the fish of the year because I would have won it every year since the region started.
I sort of get that.
It's the biggest pike of the year trophy, excluding Nick Peat.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Luckily, I don't think I'll ever find myself in that situation. What is your favourite colour of river when you're fishing them? Would you just like
what species I'm after, really.
Pike.
I like it clear.
Yeah.
For pike. Yeah.
See, me, I actually like coloured water. Not coloured, but I like it when it's been in flood and it's finding down. And it's still
the rivers, definitely. Yeah, you get in there the first day it becomes fishable after
which just
a flood.
that hint
Those
of
fish
green.
are hungry, they're gagging for it.
Yeah, and it can be still really coloured, but a hint of green.
I could catch 20s to order from the Y. I only went up there when conditions were perfect.
It's that colour, I think.
I watched the gauge levels online and I was up there at dawn the next day.
Did you find when it got clear it was rock hard?
Yes.
Yeah. See, it's like the rivers I fish, the ones I used to fish quite a lot. That colour, you could almost say I am going to catch 20.
You could still catch when it was clear, but I'd fish the deeper swims where you couldn't see the bottom.
Right, I'm going to do a little bit of lure fishing. Nick's up there soaking his dead baits, he's after a big fish. And I've got my twin power, my H2O rod. I'm just going to see if I can grab a bite down there. It's absolutely Baltic today. I'll be very impressed if I do get a bite. I'll give it a go. That's my chances of getting a take doing this. It's my first cast on the Fenland River. So I'm quietly confident I might be able to get a bite. Here we are. Make a move. This is quite a nice swim actually. You can get down here quite well. That's quite a finesse rig actually.
That's a pilchard. It was fresh when I bought it in Yarmouth. See, it's covered in nice.
That's a lovely bait.
Scales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought up there. The guy showed me a box of pilchards. And,
that is a very nice rig.
That's your 7-strand AFW surf strand.
Yeah.
Which has never let me down.
It's pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
Titanium, I don't see the point. It's just thick. Whereas that is like a fine wire trace. They take 30 seconds to make. And you've got quite a light lead. I mean, that lead is probably under an ounce, I'd say.
That's all you need here to hold the bottom.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
When it's pumping.
See, I have a theory when I fish my floats, and I fish like an ounce lead. And if it doesn't hold, I'm fishing the wrong spot.
I've run out of the usual plastic run ring, so I'm just using a Carp ring swivel.
Nothing wrong with that. Solid pike catching outfit. Just need to catch a few pike. It's a mobile angler. I'm going to have a few chucks in my lure while you move. Do you know? It wouldn't go down well if I caught one, but I have seen this happen. You put dead bait, you put your like dead baits out there, and it brings a pike in it. As soon as you sit there, I'm going to whack a lure out there and catch a 30-pounder. Or not. Right, I'm going to have a little go here with the old lure, just in case a big old pike's been sniffing around at Nick's bait. And I'm going to run through my reel eel. This is where I fall down the bank. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Nick catches a huge pike. I mean, the baits he's using there are tip top. Right, I'm going to give it a go with a bigger lure. Right, I'm fancying this one. See how it goes. Right, the old Rapala VMC combination there. We'll give it a go. Right, we have moved. This is a rather sexy looking spot, if I say so myself. I reckon one of the reasons you've had so many fish is because your bait is so tip top. Looking at your baits then, they were absolutely spot
Whether
on.
I'm using live or deads, I always go out of my way to get the best possible bait.
I think it makes
I've got no confidence fishing in crap bait.
Not in competition with other anglers, so I use my bait until it's like past its sell by date. But fishing down there, I noticed that he was it.
Waters like this, where there's loads of fodder fish, the
Yeah.
people have got a choice. They don't have to pick up your bait. Like they do
Exactly.
on hungry gravel pits where they're starving.
It's an
I
inch.
think the top quality bait gives you the edge.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I was actually fishing
I think those Norfolk herrings gave me the edge on the Y because none of the locals could get them.
Yeah. I know. I was fishing a swim this year, and somebody was down there, and he had his bait boat out. He had like 3 rods out. He put chop around them all, and I walked past him, and I fished I don't know, 60, 70 yards up, and put my bait out, and I've been there like sort of 10, 15 minutes. Next thing I know, you just had a knock, didn't you? Is your rod tip?
No, it's the wind.
Oh, is it? Are you sure?
It's not. It's the wind. It's very soft mud there.
There's no wind though.
No, it is. It's a knock.
It is a knock.
It might be.
There's no wind.
Yes, it is.
Oh, bloody hell. Bloody hell.
Have a try.
We have a take.
On a day.
He's into a fish, yeah? No? No. No, that was definitely a take though. I'm sure it was.
A micro jack.
Yeah?
Small zander. Yeah, there's tooth marks on the bait, but very small, whatever it was. It didn't even have the hooks in its mouth.
Still takes a take. That's a beautiful bait. Could have been a 20. Maybe not.
No way with teeth marks like that.
Yes, what I was saying, there's a chap, he had his rods out, bait boated, and I just cast mine out. I'm not a big fan of bait boats. I prefer catching what's in front of me first. Anyway, I had a run, Anyway, I got a fish. It's over 20 pounds in a net. And the funniest thing about it, it's coughing up all this chop everywhere. So that bait is, that fish has picked up the chop around his baits, swum past all his baits, come over to mine, grabbed it, and I caught it. It was a bit of a touch, that. I'll show you a picture of that. Yeah, nice fish. Speaking of laughs, now you've done a lot of fishing all over the world. Where do you reckon the hottest women are? Because I've heard you're a bit of a Casanova.
Thailand.
Thailand, yeah. What about
But
Dutch
honestly, there's
girls?
hot women. I've not really fished in Europe much.
American
Cape
women?
Verde. Latin America, definitely.
Yeah.
Mexico, Panama, Suriname.
Well, when it comes to like fishing and women, you reckon Thailand is the place, or is that just for the women?
Both.
Yeah, I know. Totally agree with that.
Complete anglers have got to master every.
Sea fishing, to me, I love it. I mean, I love our
Shark
seasons.
fishing is really just beefed up pike fishing.
Yeah.
If you go shark fishing in the summer,
Makes you a better pike angler, especially like hook sharpness and things. You go and go pike fishing, catch 100 pike in a day, but
I
if you
love shark fishing from the beach. You feel the full power of it. You can't follow it like you can in a boat. The big bronze whaler in Namibia and South Africa, they nearly spool you on the first run.
well, I've actually got Dave. It's Dave Lewis. I got his book for Christmas.
I've got all three of his books. Yeah.
I got the latest one. I haven't read that yet. I'm reading. In fact, I'm reading pike fishing book.
Pike fishing book. I would say Dave Horton's Ultimate Pike.
That's funny to say.
That's not just because I wrote it. I mean, it covers every type of water in the UK.
He's a very. I've actually got it for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'm actually reading that. And I've read your chapter. It was one of the first ones. It's a fantastic book. Out of the rivers you fished, like you've got the Thurn, the Wye, the Hampshire Avon, when they've all been at their best, which was the best one?
For big fish, I'd say the Hampshire Avon.
Yeah.
But for numbers of 25 pluses, the Wye.
Yeah. There's a fantastic article in there. What did you think of that article? I thought that was brilliant. I think we can both know which river that was.
The Chalk Stream Pike?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm sure we both know which river that is.
That's...
Very, very limited access to pike anglers.
And expensive.
There's a day ticket stretch and a couple of club
But
stretches.
that is a fantastic magazine. It really is. I mean, Martin puts a lot of effort into that.
Yep.
And it's quite scary, really, because youngsters don't buy magazines. They're missing out. I mean, that one's just... I thought Neville's article that was really interesting.
I've got them all except the first one. I've got
the first one.
a library of them at home, a bookcase in my office. So
No,
if I ever fish any of these waters in the fucher, I can have a good read.
Well, I do
before
going
go.
for like big roach and that. It's interesting. I go back and I've referenced that. But Neville's article in Canada, I think they had 400 or 500 pike, and like quite a few 20s. And that to me sounds like quite. I think this was a recent trip.
He was very grumpy about it, whinging about the costs.
Well,
borrow the money off his missus.
I think this was a later trip. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was.
But it sounds quite. I think he was actually. He seemed to be moaning quite a lot about what older Phil had caught. I felt a bit sorry for him actually. I know what it's like when someone else is getting all the bites. You can't decide what size fish, but he was getting more than his share of 20-pounders. But I think Neville did quite well. Yeah, that catch goal. And I've got an article in that one, and the second part of that article is nothing better than when you've written an article for a magazine where people's messaging you. I had a message last night saying, yeah, it was really good. Yes, do think about liking, subscribing, and I am hoping to do a few more of the legends in the next couple of years. But the trouble is with piking legends, they're not getting any younger, like myself.